So hello and okay, is it running? So today our topic will be the API attacks and the attack resources plus the privilege escalation part. Because in pen testing the privilege escalation is not generally required. Sometimes it have to necessary to actually know about the attacks. I will going to take the privilege escalation part and the other parts um, later years or later months or something like that, whenever I am going to start for the OSCP OSCP terms or something like that. Then I'll going to explain or use that particular part. So firstly, just talk about the API attacks and attack resources. First thing, you have to understand that the API attacks are actually very much similar, plus it's really different than other parts or different than other things. You can go and subscribe it. You have to do it anyway. Just promotion quick. But you have to understand one thing, that the API attacks have different types, and different type of API attacks are already there. If you go to the OWASP top 10 website, which if you go OWASP top 10 API vulnerabilities, you will see that OWASP top 10 API disks are there. And broken object level authorization means the IDOR is right now actually one of the top. Okay, it's in the one of the top, so you already know what IDR can do. I already talked about it. You can go and check it out, check that out the video. But there are a lot of API attacks, and API things are actually pretty common. So how to do it, or how can we do it? That would be a pretty good question. To just for the starter pack, I want to say that you can go to this particular uh, CR API, or the completely ridiculous API. You can go there and you know learn or read it to get the understanding what it is, and you can actually know that how these files are actually created. This is a kind of similar thing to the metasploitable. Okay, like there are a lot of vulnerabilities, and in dockers there are more 3 or 4 containers. There are 3 or 4 containers actually used for the purpose of um, you know for the purpose of hacking and other stuffs, or testing, pen testing about the API attacks. I'm probably going to take API attacks labs in the upcoming times, but not today. I'm just going to explain some things. There is no demo session. Firstly, you have to know about the APIs first. Okay, so there is a popular API called REST APIs. REST API actually works on the principle of HTTP protocol. So what it does basically, the REST API works for CRUD operations you can do with REST API and the other stuffs that are actually architectural style of the HTTP service. So in HTTP service means that you can do various stuffs. Like this thing is HTTPS. Basically, it's HTTP. The S is for the secure transfer protocol. So the HTTPS is all about, you see the websites all are built in HTTPS. Most of the websites are actually built in HTTP. So the architecture would be the REST API. It doesn't mean have to be REST API. People can use it for different purposes. I will going to explain the API part when I will do the API, or I will do the API creation, because I will maybe in upcoming days, maybe I'm going to take the or learn the APIs, how to create the APIs. So that would be really helpful anyway. So one of the pretty advantages of API vulnerabilities is that API vulnerabilities exist on both type of devices, like web and Android, and both are actually same. Okay, similar type of APIs, because APIs obviously are the application, or the way or the mechanism how the database and the program is connected. So what the logic behind it, so doesn't have to doesn't have to be specifically a web application or mobile application that should be different. Like normal vulnerabilities are actually different in both other devices, but the API attacks are actually pretty common. Then there comes the extensible markup language remote procedure, or the XML-RPC. Okay, XML-RPC, XML-RPC is actually a remote procedure call via XML. If you go and search about it, like XML-RPC, then you will get a more understanding of it. Basically, if you go here and here, basically when you are the structure you are creating is based on XML. Okay, like the transfer protocol is HTTP, but you are getting the data in XML format, and you are transferring the data in XML format. So that is one kind of a thing for the XML RPC protocol. Then comes the SOAP. It's not so popular, but it's actually older but more structured. It uses a payload and an envelope. In payload you can specify the things. So if you go here and search it, it's to work on it. But there are a lot of RESTful APIs also there, other services. So if you go here and if you read about it a lot, so maybe SOAP APIs stand for Simple Object Access Protocol. Okay, a lightweight XML based communication protocol designed for communicate via internet, simple and extensible, and platform and language independent. It is a W3C standard. Okay, basically if you want to learn more about it, I'm going to share about this later, but today is actually not specifically for this. But then comes the word list attack, or the you have to know basically why the API attacks is actually important, because throughout that you can understand that what kind of architecture this kind of you know the website or the application is using. Okay, if you know what kind of APIs are using, you can know about the vulnerabilities that can actually exist for that particular API. So if you go in kind of there are already word list for determining it, but already there are actually a lot of word list exist. Metasploit framework also does its work by its own. Then comes the word list CTL, or the wirelesshack.org site where you can actually get a more understanding, more word list to find the structure or the architecture the API are using. So quick review: distributed computing depends on API. API weaknesses can allow attackers to bypass traditional controls. Plus, many resources exist online that can make attacking API easier than building all attacks from scratch. First of all, API, if you are building an APIs, and you have to understand that this thing is not by default secure. So you have to code everything to make it secure. There are all other courses for making it secure, so you can know how much you have to work on it. Then comes the privilege escalation part. Privilege escalation basically means that you already gotten shell or something like that. Now you have to get the most higher order shell, means the root access. Okay, and how you can get the root access, that is the question. That is what we call privilege escalation. Means we are something like a more backward kind of situation in a shell, and you are getting one by one. If you are getting a user shell, then you are getting a group shell or something like that, then somehow you're getting a SUID, or super user became a super user, that is kind of a thing. So what SUID or the thing, this kind of thing does, what is SUID? SUID basically means super user ID, and SGID is super group ID. Okay, so in SUID there is permission to execute a program as an executable's owner. Okay, like if you are using a if you are creating a file, let's just say this is a terminal window, and if I just delete this, and right here if I go to the desktop, and if I just make it a little bigger, and here if I create a text file called anything su.txt, and if I exit from here and go to the same location called desktop, and if I chmod or try to access this SUID, okay, maybe I probably access because I have that access, but if you hyphen ls.l, you can get to know that what kind of access I have. So I have read and write access, but the group has only read access, and the others have only read access. So I have the read and write access, but I have to know that how can I restrict this address to only readable. So if I just do a quick search on it, that how can I restrict other users to access my root text file. Okay, you have to know a little bit of Linux to actually do it. Okay, you can do a -ls -l to get the understanding of it. Okay, maybe using the chmod would be good. So if I just do the chmod, and the option would be only r c.txt, and if I do that -l, so the txt is now only writable, not readable. So if I just do one another thing called -w, and now if I do the same, so the su text has no anything we can't do on it. Like if I do right now the code su.txt, it's opening, that is huge. I don't know why it's opening, because it's not readable. So if I just exit it, and if I try to access it like su.txt, here you can see that you can't actually access it because you don't have the permissions. So you have to privilege escalate it if you don't know any password of mine, because when you are actually in the server, so you have to get the access of the main root user so you can change other files. So that is the thing you have to know, because you are the root user, you can get the access, right? So that is the whole thing I want to say. Then if you want to know which is the hyphen s means you get the whole of it. Then comes the unsecure. Sudo means the authorized users execute commands as if logged in as in a root. Basically sometimes when I have seen this in my CTF type of things, when you are doing a CTF and you find nmap in the in the in the in the box or in the machine, you want to privilege escalate it, and you get the nmap installed there. So there is a command which you can use to get the nmap thing. I'm going to show you in the CTF kind of videos. Then comes the RET to ret to libc. This is a kind of special attack which can be performed by Stack Overflow. So what is buffer overflow or Stack Overflow? If you want to know, you have to know a little bit of C programming, and the buffer overflow or the binary exploitation is actually removed from the syllabus. So it's just for the purpose of knowing, so I'm not going deeper on it. Okay, then comes the sticky bit. Also you can get the directory permissions, and multiple users can create, read or write files, but only the owner can delete. The ls shows t in the last bit of permission, so we can get the understanding that these are sticky bits. Okay, so ret to libc is a potential attack vector for the hijacking purposes. Sticky bit directories can allow attackers to write files and executables. So next comes the privilege escalation for the Windows. So Windows privilege escalation stores the part for C password. So when the C password is actually for the password storing purpose, so in the C password section, all the password of the Windows are actually saved. Similarly, in Linux, there is a file called etc shadow. Okay, there is no, if I do that same, so there you can see a lot of passwords and other stuff there, and it's a very good library. Okay, also there is another library called passwd. These also have the record, and the you can see that which kind of user have the purpose, or the which kind of user had the permissions of it. So these are the things. Then comes the LDAP credential, clear text credentials in LDAP. So the LDAP stores the clear text credentials. Then comes the Kerberos I already talked about it. Kerberos attacks. So that's it, actually based on the tickets and other stuffs. We're going to learn it when the networking part is there. So that is also. Then the credentials in LSASS means the local security authority subsystem service enforces security policy. Okay, unattended installation means PXC pre-boot installation environment credentials. Then the SAM database, DLL hijacking. The SAM database is basically the database contains user passwords, and the DLL hijacking is forcing a loader to load a malicious DLL. You can actually use the malicious DLL file to attack the system. So these are all the things. Okay, then comes the miscellaneous previous escalation, means what are the other things you have to check it out. Like you can find the clear text passwords, old protocols, if these use unupdated Windows, or these have the old protocols or the passwords that are actually not updated, so that can actually harm the systems. Then comes the uncoded service paths. Basically means I can't show you right here, but basically in Windows what happens, that when you're using Windows, and if the paths, if you're specifying, is not actually in quotations, sometimes what happens that if you create a malicious path before the program files, okay, or another anything, and you somehow load a particular malicious file or malicious shell script to get the shell script before it, and if you didn't quotation, if you didn't did the quotation, basically what I trying to say that if you have a file called C, and like this is the one program files, okay, then comes another files like I'm just assuming that there is a file called whatever, there are a lot of files there, maybe there is the web firewall, okay, and then comes there maybe firewall .exe. I'm just assuming it, there is no actual file maybe like this, but if you don't make it in quotations, like when you are uploading it to a server, if you don't make it quotations, so what I can do, I can create a particular file called, maybe a particular folder called program in it, and which maybe I can have the access to, and if I create another like this same name and the same exe, but the exe of the firewall exe may be malicious, okay, firewall exe may be malicious here, malicious, so I can execute a lot of scripts right there. So these are the things actually you have to understand. Sometimes it can actually harm the system. Comes the unsecure file or the folder permissions. You can get, if you give some of the text or something like that, if you give the root purposes, so like if you give them something like that, so if a txt file had that kind of purpose, and if you do this like bin/bash, if you do this, and somehow if I run this kind of txt into the folder, like if I do a cat or symbol like that, cat txt, cat txt, and if I run it, and then somehow I can get the shell if it runs because of the root permissions, so that you have to understand. Then comes the keylogger, they can actually record every keystroke, they can actually get the passwords there. Then also there are some of the kernel exploits. I have to understand that actually gone under the OS footprinting. Local host vulnerabilities means basically that sometimes what happens was, if you are using a VM virtual machine or something like that, and you give it a host only permission, so if anyone get if someone get the virtual machine, I'm not just assuming from the internet or something like that, but if someone can get the physical access to a virtual machine, maybe you can have a bridge connection, okay, so if someone get one virtual machine's IP or virtual machines connection access, so they can actually get the access of another virtual machine, they can actually get the access of host virtual machine, or meant the host machine, so that can be actually pretty damaging. Also comes the cold boot attack, basically means if you access the server, if you have the access of the physical server, so you can actually, there will be a what we can say, what we call it, computer, there will be a computer, so the computer you can then boot up to, if the computer has a password, then you can boot up to a Linux system there, and the Linux system also have the capability to, if you do a live system, you can actually access all the files there, so that can be pretty cool and pretty damaging, so you have to log the servers. So this is it, basically this is all we have to know. have to know more, a lot more of things. But yeah, I'm going to make videos on it, or you can search by yourself for it. So this is it for today, and thank you for watching.